Matt Harmon here from Reception Perception. Curtis Samuel, Buffalo Bills wide receiver. Today we're going to break down why Curtis Samuel is an underrated NFL player and, more importantly, how he's going to fit into this Buffalo Bills wide receiver room. Let's get into it. All right, so Curtis Samuel, if you guys are longtime fans and followers of Reception Perception, you know this is one of my guys, man. Curtis Samuel, exciting player, a guy that I think is very underrated. He signs with the Buffalo Bills, which, I mean, pretty much here in the Harmon household, we've not stopped the party. We're rocking. My wife, Peach, Charlie, we've all just been popping bottles about Curtis Samuel landing with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, the quarterback situation. I don't think they know why we're partying, but I know why we're partying, and I'm going to tell you in this video why I think Curtis Samuel, again, extremely underrated NFL player. Let's bring up his route charts from this past year. That's a lot of green, okay, on the route charts here for Curtis Samuel, and I think Curtis Samuel is a guy that's really misunderstood in a way. Like, people kind of have this perception of him that he's a gadget player, that he's a design touches player. I mean, you look at this route chart, let me tell you what, think about guys that have been typecasted as gadget players before, these creative touch players, Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, go through the list, Wan'Dale Robinson. They don't have route charts like Curtis Samuel does. This guy's a real legitimate wide receiver. He's a real legitimate route runner. He gets separation, sure, short and underneath. Flat routes, slant routes is solid. But these man-beating routes, 9 routes, curl routes, comebacks, out routes, dig routes, that's real high. I mean, in terms of the success rates for digs and curls, that intermediate area, that's where I think he's a really critical fit with Buffalo is Gabe Davis. I mean, Gabe Davis's route charts, if you've seen him, not great in terms of the separation in the intermediate area. He can burn you down the field. Samuel could burn you down the field as well, but what's more important is he gets open in the intermediate area, the dig routes, the out routes, the comebacks, the curls. That's where I think he's a big upgrade as that number 2 receiver for the Buffalo Bills, if he remains the number 2 receiver. You just overall look at his success rates, 75.4% success rate versus man coverage for Curtis Samuel last year. That's an 82nd percentile score in reception perception history. And to pull up the historical data for Curtis Samuel, that's not a fluke. That's what his career has looked like. This has been a player in the 4 seasons sampled for reception perception, 76.6%, 75.4%, 75.8%, 75.4%. In the historical database, Samuel's been a guy that's been a high-quality separator against man coverage for his entire career. So this is a player that's been in the league for a while. It's a player that's dealt with injuries, and that consistency is still there. Actually hit a career high in terms of success rate versus zone last year and was still pretty solid against press coverage. So I want, if you're not familiar with reception perception, I actually think it's a useful exercise to just literally go through the success rate versus man coverage database and just see Curtis Samuel, where he lines up these success rates overall. So 76.6%. Some of the names around here: DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson, John Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, Julio Jones, Keenan Allen, Stefon Diggs, more DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, here again, Curtis Samuel's in the company of AJ Green, Chris Olave, Brandon Ayuk, Sterling Shepard. You seeing like some of these guys that my pet projects along the way: John Brown, Sterling Shepard, Curtis Samuel definitely fits in there. But again, we're in some pretty good company here. I mean, shoot. Des Bryant again, Chris Godwin, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase, Elijah Moore. I feel like Elijah Moore is actually probably the next Curtis Samuel, if we're being honest. So maybe that should scare you. I don't know. But again, this is the company that Curtis Samuel keeps in terms of his ability to get open, his ability to separate. Now, the big question with Curtis Samuel, and I think a lot of people are asking this, clearly he's a good wide receiver. I think we can see that this is a good NFL player. It's the question now becomes, how does Curtis Samuel fit into this Buffalo Bills receiver room? And this is where I think, again, he's a bit of a misunderstood player. I'll pull up his alignment data throughout his career. You see Obviously, these last couple years that I have sampled, one is 2020 with Joe Brady, current Bills offensive coordinator with the Carolina Panthers. A lot of slot and backfield stuff, 60% in the slot, 15.4% in the backfield. Last year in Washington, less of pure rushing stuff with Curtis Samuel with the 7%, but he's in there for pre-snap motion. That's going to be a big part of what he does for Buffalo. But 6.5% slots. So this is where I think it's interesting. You look at his first 2 seasons I have sampled here, though, a lot more work outside as a flanker receiver. Behind the line of scrimmage, outside, he's a flanker. He can play that position for Buffalo. We saw the success rates earlier. I'll bring up his route chart from this 2019 season as well. When he's playing as that flanker receiver, this is still really good in terms of his ability to separate. His ability to beat man coverage is still there. To win in that critical intermediate area that we were talking about earlier. Dig routes, curl routes, comebacks, but still burning teams deep. Let's be clear. If Curtis Samuel had a real quarterback in 2019, not Kyle Allen playing for an injured Cam Newton, he would have had a breakout season in 2019. It was all there. He was open. Now he has a quarterback in Josh Allen to facilitate these throws. So we're talking about Curtis Samuel's ability to win outside. Let's show a couple of plays of him doing just that. Again, this is Washington Commanders here against the Dallas Cowboys. Samuel is your bottom of the screen receiver here. So make sure, and again, he's on the line of scrimmage, outside receiver, gonna run a vertical route. Let's take a look here. We've got Samuel against Deron Bland, out route, speed out, boom, ball out, gets open. That's the type of thing I think is really going to be helpful for the Buffalo Bills. Let's show another play here against the Buffalo Bills. You always love this. Hey, player has a couple of big plays against your team. You sign him in free agency. You see that more often than you might think. So we've got Samuel again, top of the screen here, man coverage as the outside receiver. Samuel gets off the line of scrimmage in a hurry, is able to win on that 9 route. Like we saw, 60% success rate on the 9 route for Curtis Samuel last year. And yeah, man, he's a guy that can get you that separation on the outside. The thing with Curtis Samuel is, yes, he can absolutely get open. He can absolutely play. He can do some of those slot design touches, out of the backfield type stuff. I think Joe Brady's going to make good use of that. But a lot of the role that he played in that season with Joe Brady in Carolina, short routes, playing out of the slot, he's doing that because of the quarterback he's playing with. Again, he saw an adjustment from that 2019 season to Joe Brady in 2020, bringing the routes short of the line of scrimmage, not running 26.2% 9 routes like he was in 2019 with a guy in Kyle Allen who couldn't push the ball downfield. Brady used him well. He designed routes well for him, but we also see from Samuel's past that he can play flanker, so I'm not concerned about him overlapping skill set with Khalil Shakir, a player I like. I like Shakir as a potential slot option, but I also think Shakir can play a little bit outside. So the versatility and interpositional flexibility that I think you get with the wide receiver core of Stefon Diggs, Curtis Samuel, and Khalil Shakir is super valuable for Buffalo, who has for too long employed guys that were, maybe good players in their own right, but weren't versatile players. I mean, Gabe Davis can only run linear routes from the X receiver position. Cole Beasley, really good player for them. Better player than Gabe Davis for sure, but was only a slot receiver. Now they have guys who can play multiple positions here. Stefon Diggs, you want to move him into the slot? You can play these two guys outside. I also think Buffalo can still draft a true X. I think they might want to look at drafting a true X in the first round if one falls to them. So, for Bills fans, you got a good player here in Curtis Samuel. You got a guy who can win against man coverage, who can separate in the areas that your offense has been lacking the last few years, and you still have the flexibility, 1, to play guys who are ascending like Khalil Shakir, or 2, draft more receivers in the NFL draft. Reception Perception loves Curtis Samuel. I think Bills fans should love the acquisition of Curtis Samuel. That's it for today. Make sure you like this video, leave a comment down below, and please subscribe to the channel to support what we're doing here, and check out Reception Perception content on the podcast, and of course, receptionperception.com. We have 3 tiers of subscription. If you want to be a sicko, you want to buy our highest tier of subscription, you can get through all that historical database we were looking at earlier today. Or hey, you want to just check out the profiles, you want to just check out my write-ups for this past year, you can do that as well. All right, I'm Matt Harmon. Appreciate you guys for watching. Catch you on the next one.